Welcome to Econ Nerds Live, a celebration and discussion of economics done weekly. I'm your host, Matt Hill. With me, as always, or as usual, Ariel Slonim. And we have another guest, Ariel, Jadrian Wooten from Monday Morning Economist. Welcome.
Thank you both. I appreciate you having me on here.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah. For listeners who don't know, Monday Morning Economist, it's a Substack that posts basically an article, like an in-depth article on, I guess, not really the news, but some interesting econ topic every week on Monday. And then you do like a news roundup of articles on Tuesday. Is that right, Jadrian?
That's absolutely right. I think in the beginning it started as heavy news, and then it's turned into pop culture and current events because those are way more fun to write about. Yeah, it's gotten fun. I don't know how to describe it. I think you described it much better than I do. I usually say current events / pop culture. It lets me do both sides of the story.
Now, this may be a selfish question. As somebody who has to make an econ video every week now, where do you get your ideas, Jadrian? How do you have an idea every week?
Some weeks are really easy. You know, it's you get tired of writing about eggs, for example. So, you know, the egg time was, I could knock out like 3 egg posts. I don't want to write about tariffs. There's only so many things I can say about tariffs. And when I first started, it was all shortages. It was supply chain shortages. So I think the current events one, those are easy. The pop culture ones, those are me spending too much time on TikTok, Instagram, Reddit. It's if I start noticing a trend, I'm like, how can I ruin this for my students and make it about economics?
You know, what's funny is you talk about tariffs is, you know, everyone knows that I'm an economist, and I'm sure it's the same with you. And so people keep asking you about tariffs, and it's probably the thing I would have the least to say, right? Is it the same with you?
I have an article on it, right? I've already written about it. I don't know how many other things I can say about it. I can say it raises prices. What do you want next? Like, I have nothing more to add. That's how I feel about it.
I just feel like it's bad. Yeah, they're bad. They usually have all these negative effects. Here are the negative effects. All right. And there's not a lot of debate within the profession about it. It's a general consensus.
Right. It's like asking a police officer, like, what are your thoughts on murder? You're like, don't do it. What else do you want me to say?
Yeah, exactly.
Each week they're like, what about now? What about the new murders?
What about this new way to murder? They came up with a new way to do it, dude.
It's still bad.
Is it different? No, still no, not great. Reciprocal murder. What do you think about that? No, also bad.
Also bad.
All right, but as a connoisseur of the econ news, we thought we'd start with our usual news quiz that Ariel prepares every week. We'll see how you do. Since you do this as well, you have a roundup of news articles, so you should be good at this, Jadrian. No pressure.
Ariel, I'm so nervous. I listen to episodes where Matt just like knocks him out of the park, and I'm sitting here going, I got all these wrong. So I'm ready to be humbled.
I do try and write them so that Matt, who sees the articles, I'm testing whether he's read them and not just looked at the headlines.
I don't cheat, Ariel. I don't cheat, and I stopped looking at the headlines even just to make sure that everything's on up and up on over here on Econ Nerds.
Okay, well now we get to know how much you guys are paying attention to the econ news. Okay, so one thing I learned this week is that the One Big Beautiful Bill raises the guaranteed price of sugar for sugar farmers as part of like the ag package. So what is the new guaranteed sugar price for raw sugar in the United States? Okay, I'm going to give you 4 options. You ready? Okay. Is it A, 8 cents, B, 17 cents, C, 20 cents, D, 27 cents per pound?
Oh man. So we have 8, we say 8, 13, 20, 27.
8, 17, 20, 27.
Oh, 8/17. That's my birthday. I'll go with 17. 17 is my lucky number, so we'll go.
I'm going low. I feel like I remember this being a really low number, so I'm gonna say 8. I feel like it doubled from like 4 to 8.
Okay, you both are wrong, but the answers that I put in here that are distracting answers, there's a reason why you picked them. So 8 cents is what used to be the world price for sugar, and 20 cents was the previous guaranteed minimum price that the U.S. would pay. They would buy up any remaining sugar from sugar farmers. But they raised the minimum price from 20 to 27 cents in the most recent bill.
So there's a great Planet Money about the sugar price. If listeners want to dive in, maybe I'll probably put it in the show notes too. It's so good on this price floor for sugar, which is basically it raises the price of sugar for Americans, and it's all about this factory in Ohio that has to move because of the sugar price. So it's actually in our price floor unit plan, and I teach it every semester. And I believe I have the 8 and 20 cents price in my lecture notes now that I think back, and it's in our unit plan. So I should have at least known the world price and that, but I'm off.
So that's
today.
where those numbers came from. But U.S. sugar farmers haven't been doing well, and they've lost 15% market share despite the tariffs. So the tariffs are going up, and the guaranteed price floor is going up in an effort to help those sugar farmers.
All right. Well, O for O.
Okay.
Not a good start.
Now we are going to talk about tariffs briefly. They are in the news, so I do put them in the news quiz. So Trump did announce last week a 50% tariff on Brazilian goods, causing concern for a number of Brazilian imports, including Brazilian coffee growers and U.S. roasters who buy those beans. What percentage of U.S. coffee consumption comes from Brazil? Okay, so as a total of U.S. coffee bean consumption, is Brazil's share 1/4, 1/3, 1/2, or 2/3 of U.S. coffee consumption?
I'm gonna go. I'll go with 1/3.
I'm gonna say 1/4. I'm gonna go lower.
Ooh, okay, going lower.
Matt is correct. It is 1/3. Brazil is I think one of the largest suppliers of coffee to the U.S. And so they are in the process of looking for new markets for their coffee, should that go into effect. It is a threatened August 1st tariff for listeners, so that they know it could be coming.
Lots of countries make coffee, though. That's why I went with one. That's why I went with one of the lower numbers. Probably why Jadrian went with the lower number too. It's like if you travel.
I know this a little bit. I think the Asian beans, the ones that are grown in I might be bad. I don't know which variety is grown in Asia, but I think those tend to go to Europe, and Americans tend to drink the South American beans, and then I think the African beans are split between the two. So I think I think globally Brazil is small, and that's what I was thinking in my head. But I think they are, I guess, a larger share of the United States part.
They are the largest single source of U.S. coffee beans. So I think because African coffee is divided between many countries, that they're all importing by country. Brazil's imports to the U.S. are the biggest. And that probably has to do with shipping routes and the way we've distributed.
It's a different kind of bean too. It's I got real deep into this. I have an article on it. That's the only reason I know it. There is a different type of bean, bean flavor. And that's why if you've ever had European coffee, it's kind of more espresso based. There's 2 different types of beans.
Okay.
Are you a coffee connoisseur, Jadrian? Do you know? Are you a fancy coffee?
Well, I say that I'm drinking a latte. So yes, and I'll say no, not super far. But I get real deep into some of these articles that I write. So maybe this will come up later, where I go on rabbit holes and I learn about some really weird stuff just to write a 5-minute article.
I'm the opposite of whatever a coffee connoisseur is. I love Starbucks coffee. Starbucks is my favorite, and my sister-in-law runs a craft coffee shop. She runs it's one of those super fancy coffee shops, and I don't like the coffee there. I prefer Starbucks. So often I will work in the back of that, above that coffee shop in my brother's warehouse, and I'll have to smuggle in Starbucks so she doesn't yell at me. So
I drink it all. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not picky.
I am the coffee connoisseur, and I have a single origin roast subscription coming to my house, but I've never had Asian beans, so that hasn't been on my radar.
Oh, you got to remedy that, Ariel. Come on.
I do. Okay, moving on to question 3. The latest CPI report clocked inflation at 2.7%. which category was the largest contributor to the overall CPI gain? Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 categories. You decide which one contributed most to the 2.7% CPI. Apparel, household furnishings, vehicle prices, or shelter prices.
I'm pretty sure I know this, Jadrian, so you can
See,
go ahead.
That's okay. I was gonna say, in my head, I was like, I knew the story about furniture and clothing. I saw this in one of the headlines, but I'm sitting here wondering if that's actually the biggest contributor, or if those were just large increases. I'm gonna go with. I always want to pick cars. Cars are such a big part of it. You know what? I'm gonna lean with my first guy. I'm gonna say clothing. That's what I wrote down. I'm taking notes so that I could be prepared. Clothing was what I wrote down first, so I'm gonna stick with clothing. Apparel.
I'm pretty sure it's shelter. So go ahead, Ariel.
Matt, you're correct again.
Yeah,
It's shelter, because shelter is just a larger part of the budget. So it's a smaller percentage increase. It's up 0.2% for the month. But because it makes up such a large part of the basket, it's the larger contributor compared to apparel and household that were both increasing. Vehicle prices went down last month. So that one, but that's relative to their increases in previous months. Okay. Are you ready? Oh, wait. I thought this was the last question. I actually have 2 more. Okay. Switching gears here. The French Prime Minister, whose name I cannot pronounce, announced a new budget that included freezing spending on everything but defense, reducing the number of civil servants, ending tax breaks for the rich, and slashing 2 public holidays to balance the budget. Which 2 public holidays did the Prime Minister
This is going to be impossible. The Europeans love their public holidays. Having worked in Europe, it's every week.
Apparently, just a total public outcry that he has recommended slashing 2 public holidays as a way to balance the budget, which I assume is because they're going to work more on these 2 days. I'm still
you have the day off usually. So
yeah, okay. So here are your 4 options. A, Victory in Europe Day. B, Easter Monday. C, Armistice Day, which is what we call Veterans Day here in the United States, November 11th. And D, All Saints Day.
We got to pick 2?
You got to pick 2. So,
okay.
Pick 2 of 4. That you have decent odds on this one.
I'm gonna go. These are all kind of similar. You have like 2 war days and 2 religious days. So I feel like it's 1 religious day and 1 war day. So I'm gonna go. You feel free to copy me if you want. I'm gonna go Easter Monday because I didn't even know that was a holiday.
I was gonna pick that one.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
That's on my list. Easter Monday was one of mine.
And I'm gonna go with that first one, Victory in Europe Day. Oh no. No, you know what? I'm just okay. You can have that one, Jadrian. I'm gonna switch to Armistice Day. I'm switching to Armistice Day.
So my thought process was Easter Monday is an easier one, right? It's after the holidays. So I was like, okay, that's an easier one to cut. And then I feel like you can't cut veterans. Like a Veterans Day feels strong. Like that feels like an important holiday in most countries. So I was going with your first 2. So Matt, you can copy if you want.
No. I'm going to go Armistice Day because I feel like Victory in Europe. I feel like the Europeans are more about Europe these days. So they're going to keep the Victory in Europe Day, and Armistice seems more general. So I'm going to go with those 2, Ariel.
Okay. Well, Jadrian, you are correct on this one.
Finally.
Matt, you had the Easter Monday correct. They are keeping Armistice Day and not celebrating Victory in Europe Day, but that is a big holiday for the French who, experienced that Victory in Europe Day. But the argument was that May was a Gruyere of holidays. That was the analogy used. There's holes in May. It's interrupting everybody's productivity. So we've got to get rid of these like late spring, early summer holidays because we've got too many of them.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it works out for the old prime minister. I predict riots in the streets of France because that's the usual reaction to any changes there. So,
particularly the ending of holidays.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. What was Argentina's annualized growth rate as of the second quarter of 2025?
We just have to guess it. We don't have any options.
Straight numbers.
Straight 5.7%.
Here are your options. -2.1%, 1.5%, 4.3%, and 7.6%.
Okay, well, it's definitely positive because our guy, our chainsaw boy, Javier Milei, has it's going good so far. So it's either the 4 or the 7 one. I'm gonna go with the. I'll take the higher one. I'll take this.
I'm going 7.6. So if you want to do it together, we
Okay,
can.
no, I'm gonna go 4. I'm gonna go
Okay.
for 4.3. Was it? Yeah, I'll go 4.3.
Okay, Jadrian is correct. It is 7.6%.
Should have stuck with me.
So they are turning things around there in Argentina.
Look, I love a free market reform, market oriented reform as much as the next person, but I would say pump the brakes a bit. Okay, it's just been a year or something. All right, Argentina has had growth before. Everyone who's celebrating this, just wait, just give it 5 years to make sure it sticks. But looking good so far. So I think we tie. Isn't it a tie, Ariel? How does it work?
Okay.
No, I think you got
Let's
3
see.
questions.
Nobody got 1.
Okay.
So
right.
Matt did get 2.
I think I have 2.5. I think 2.5 to 2. Yeah.
And then half of 4. But then Jadrian got
just 2.
2. Okay.
Plus 2. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I remain undefeated against the guest, I guess. Or no, did I lose last week? I can't remember. Who can remember? Who cares? It's just for fun. So we thought we'd pivot to Monday Morning Economist and just kind of like ask you or talk to you about some of our favorite posts. So when I was looking through your archive, the one I remember, and perhaps because I just watched it recently, was your post on Home Alone. Mm-hmm. So you did this post where you look at what he pays for pizza in Home Alone and what he pays for groceries and try to compare it to today. Like how could we adjust these prices? So I guess my question to you is this often your experience as an economist watching movies trying to adjust prices?
Oh, immediately. If there's a price that comes up, that's the first thing I'm thinking in my head as I go, how much was that back then? Or how much is that today? No, I mean, I think that one's just so fun, right? I think you see these memes pop up where they show the McAllister's house and they'll say like this, a regular family could afford this in the 90s. How much would this cost today? And I go, well, that's wildly different. You can't just compare those. It's too easy.
Also, it's a movie. So, I mean, on that particular front, like, I'm in LA. I know how the movie things work. They get houses that look nice for the movies. They don't like just do an average house. Like, I was watching Transformers with my son, and the guy, Shia LaBeouf, he lived in the house was probably like $4 million house in Pasadena or something. And it's like, yeah, they got it because it looks good. It's not like they're not trying to represent the common man or something.
Well, that's
but it's funny.
New York.
What's that?
I was going to say, Matt, it's the same with New York sitcoms, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody can afford their apartment in any of the New York sitcoms, except for maybe, right, the friend's apartment that is rent controlled, right? And so they've created this story of how can they have such a big apartment for their space. But none of them are reasonable. I love the post where they go through and they're like, could you afford the house, the apartment in How I Met Your Mother? Or, the answer is no. Nobody can afford these apartments.
Yeah. But I love, and nothing drives me crazier. I don't know if this is your experience too. When you see something on the internet and it's not adjusted for inflation, I see the recent Superman numbers coming out and they're comparing it to the old Superman. I'm like, you can't compare these things. This movie came out 10 years ago. You have to adjust for inflation.
I'm glad you said that because this is actually one of my. I don't remember a lot from my undergrad time, but this is actually one that I do remember. One of my first assignments in my Principles of Macroeconomics course was getting the IMDb list of top movies, and we had to convert them into real terms so that we could then create the new list based on today's dollars, because Gone with the Wind, for example, is always towards the top of the list, or it's not at the top of the list, but once you adjust for inflation, it shoots to the top. And so I love doing these sorts of things.
Yeah, but it's super important. And also, I will confess that in grad school, on my first research project, I was doing research for a professor, and I brought some regression results to the professor, and they looked really funny, right? They looked all wrong. And the professor's like, well, you adjusted the data for inflation, right? And I was like, yes, I definitely did. I definitely did that, right? And then, of course, after the meeting, immediately run back adjust for inflation and redo everything. But in the article, you also talk about the difficulties of adjusting for inflation, because you could just use, like, the standard way is to use the CPI. But what are some problems with just using the CPI?
I mean, the one that we went through. So this is, I should also say, we wrote this with Chris Clark. So Chris did a lot of the heavy lifting on the grocery part of it, because he actually had done a TikTok video, and I saw it. I go, hey, let's turn this into an article. And so one of the biggest ones is just you don't have the same products in the 90s that you do today. So Kevin McAllister goes to the grocery store and he needs some detergent, but the bottle of detergent is not the same size as the bottle of detergents that we use today. So Chris got real technical in terms of like measuring the size of the bottle and trying to figure it out. So just even like comparing the products that were available back then to today is very different. That's probably the easiest one, I think, for most people to sort of think about and see.
Yeah, and of course, like, you have things like, the iPhone or something like that didn't exist. So it's like, how can you possibly compare that? And people always bring this up with respect to the quality of the goods too. When you say, oh, well, this thing's way cheaper, that almost, because everyone thinks everything's worse in the present. So the immediate reaction everyone has is how everything's terrible and worse. And so when you say, oh, this got cheaper, no, your clothes are garbage. They'll fall. Yeah. So, but you in the article you found that basically everything was cheaper after you adjust for inflation, at least in these two instances with groceries and pizza, which is, I think, the general trend is that food has gotten cheaper after you adjust for inflation, which will be shocking to people I know.
Yeah, the pizza one was actually, to me, the more interesting one, because it works out so nicely, because the movie is trying to replicate Little Caesars. I believe the pizza was like Little Nero's. Like it was intended to be a Little Caesars comparison. So it was really easy to find that comparison. And then to be able to look at, like, okay, what would 10 cheese pizzas look like? And then to be able to talk about technological improvements and their hot and ready pizzas and how can you make pizzas even faster. That's sort of the fun part, is I think as economists, we do that where I feel like we get mad about weird things, and that's where we like dig in and make an article or a video about it.
Right. But I as probably a reader would be like, but Little Caesars is awful. But I'm assuming the Little Caesars was probably awful in the 90s too. So
yeah, I don't think it got worse. That's not usually the process companies try to go through.
Yeah. Although kids love Little Caesars, so the kids love that garbage food.
I will eat it. I don't hate Little Caesars.
Okay.
It's not bad. It's pretty gross, but like there's a sort of a nostalgia to it, right? That it's that I can get a $9 pizza and it's pretty good.
What do you think the best way is to like if you had your druthers, like what is the best way to compare prices over time?
Yeah, you asked me this because I left that comment on your YouTube video.
Well, you do. Yeah. So I did something similar this week when I was on Econ Nerds. We're looking at Lego prices over time and trying to think about, how can we compare this good over time? And in that video, I end up going by piece and by gram, or looking at similar sets. And the comment you brought up was thinking about it in terms of how long would it take you to earn something?
Mm-hmm. Which I actually don't particularly like that way of comparing historical prices. So a lot of people they'll look at stuff from the 1950s and say, oh, you had to work an hour and a half to be able to purchase that. Today, the median worker has to only work 45 minutes. I understand the process. That is a good way to do it. I don't generally like that idea because I feel like it's the same argument. The median worker then is very different than the median worker today. And then that's maybe not exactly, I think it's the same issues as the other way of the products are different, but now we're just trying to act like labor's the same for something. So I do like the CPI. I think it's an easier one to understand, but I also recognize that the time value makes sense too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, when I'm trying to convey something to my students or in a video or something, I will typically just use the CPI because I think it's just the easiest to understand. But as I thought after your comment and as I thought more about it, how I measure things in my own life is often by time. I distinctly remember my first job. Like I get my first job, right? I think I was making $7 an hour. And then I saw this movie called Spawn. Did anybody? You were making less. I think I was making less.
I don't know this movie.
Maybe I was making $5.25 an hour. Anyways, I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know. I
5.25.
remember,
Matt, you and I are roughly the same age. The minimum
okay.
wage was 5.25 when we were younger.
And I was working for my uncle, who is the cheapest man alive. So there's no way he was paying me anything above the bare minimum. So, anyways, saw this movie Spawn, which is awful. It's just terrible. It's just like the worst movie, right? And I realized the amount of time I spent watching Spawn was the exact same amount of time that it took me to earn enough money to watch Spawn. And I was like so depressed. But even in the present, I'll sometimes think like, okay, I went out to eat and it took me, whatever, an hour and a half to earn, the dinner bill. Or I'll look at an expense like a vacation and I'll say, that's X percent of my annual income. Like this vacation is going to cost me, I don't know, 3% of what I make this year. So I do think that sort of time value of something is often how people think about things. Anyways, great post on Home Alone. Home Alone totally holds up as a movie. I only watched it once back in the 90s when I was a kid, but I watched it again recently with my son. It really holds up. Like it's like almost better. Like it moves. It's funny. Surprisingly good setup of how he gets left home alone. Like, I think at least now.
I agree with you. I think part of the reason it's still good is I think we can still remember those times where you couldn't call somebody on a cell phone, like that you had to wait to find someplace. Like I think we can connect with that idea. I think younger people would probably look at that and go, how could they possibly leave their child behind? I think younger people would say this is wild.
Yeah,
I look at that and go, I could see it.
I had to explain to my son, like I had to pause and explain everything that was going on. And as economists or economic historians, I find now that we have this like built up history of movies, it's super fun to go back and watch old movies, because often if you watch a movie from the 30s, you watch a movie from the 40s, you're basically watching like how they lived back then. It's just nice to like see how things are built and the cars they're driving and everything. So I would, it's a fun little time traveling experience. And Home Alone, I guess, takes you back to the early 90s, to some extent. Ariel, did you have a favorite Monday Morning Economist?
Yeah, so I picked one of my favorite recent articles, which was why some of us never switched back to regular eggs. And I know you said, you can only write so many posts about eggs, but this one actually I really liked because I was doing the same thing and hadn't realized it. I had switched to the fancier eggs when the relative price had decreased, and I hadn't realized that that's what I was doing, and that was an example of the third law of demand, otherwise known as the Alchian-Allen effect. So, Jadrian, I wonder if you want to just explain a little bit of what was going on there, and how did you think of that as an egg article?
No, that's a good question. So I'm guilty of it. I think I switched. I bought the blue eggs and I go, these are amazing. These taste delicious. And then as I kept going back, I started to realize like those are only $1 more. They're only $1.50 more. Right? The gap kept getting bigger. I go, it's just another $1. That is not a concept that I teach in my principles class. I sort of talk my way around the Alchian-Allen effect. In the sense of just the idea like substitutes or relative prices and that sort of piece. Times it really is kind of my real life where I sit there and I go, wait, why am I still buying these? These other egg prices have gone down. And then those are the moments.
What is the effect? Can we summarize the effect for people that don't?
It is largely that if you have two different prices, and there is something that increases the price of both of those items, right? So like sort of the idea is like the gap stays the same, but because you're increasing the prices of both of them, the relative price is getting smaller.
Oh, okay.
And so,
right. So if like something's like $5 versus $6, then it goes up to $9 versus $10. Now that now that $1 gap seems smaller, and I'm more likely to switch to the $10 one. Okay.
Exact. Bingo. Yeah. So the idea is we care about relative prices rather than absolute prices. And so like while this article had come out, all the month before was all the massive increases in egg prices. But when that article came out, the regular egg prices were coming down. And I know I was buying those, and I started to recognize too that like they were missing at the store. Like other people were clearly buying them too. And that's where it really sort of kind of sunk in, and I started to look for different things. So it's sort of a fun way to think about relative prices. And And I don't think you see a lot of good examples of that.
Right. I'm struggling to think of like other examples.
Well,
So I have an example.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, because I was trying to think of a personal example of like when have I also seen this Alchian-Allen effect in my life. And I was thinking about Prime Day. And Prime Day, all of the prices were going down because there were discounts on goods, right? So my Fitbit was dying. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go buy a new one while it's on sale. Well, I was looking at the Fitbit. It was about $140 to get the fancy model that I wanted. And for $170, I could buy an Apple Watch. And so I switched, I upgraded to the higher quality Apple Watch because the relative price difference was much lower on Prime Day than it was at any other time. So can we say that that's an Alchian-Allen effect?
Oh, I don't know. You probably have to ask Alchian-Allen for that.
I think under their theory, no, because it needs to be the simultaneous changes. I think what you're getting is that sort of classic budget constraint, two products, relative price change. I think you're getting a substitution and income effect sort of story where the prices are coming down so you feel richer, and now that you feel richer, you're going to buy this luxury item instead. So right. I think you're getting the income effect from a price change.
Oh, perfect.
That would be my fancy intermediate micro way of explaining that.
Econ speak to describe that.
Well, this is Econ Nerds, right? So
it's fine. That's the Econ. Yeah, that's the Econ Nerd speak for Ariel. Ariel, you're going all out today. You got the fancy eggs. You got the Apple Watch.
Us.
You got the subscription coffee.
I know. We're just
we gotta keep up
here.
And Jadrian, do you have a favorite Monday Morning Economist from your archives?
You know, you warned me about this, and I sat on this all day long thinking about which one I would pick. So I'm going to do the worst thing.
Sorry,
okay, good. Change it.
Okay. No. But I guess behind the scenes, is there a huge difference in like readership between the posts?
Yes. Oh, yes. There are certain topics that I can tell, like as I'm writing them, going, this is going to be really popular. And then there's other ones that I write that I go, only the nerdiest people are going to like this one. The eggs one. I'm like, only the econ people are really going to like this one. You know, and this is where I'm going to go. The most popular one, I think, so it's not the most popular in terms of readership, but I think in terms of activity, was the Taylor Swift one. Without a doubt, it was the Taylor Swift doesn't generate the economic benefit that you think she does article. I knew as I was writing it, because I was angry. Like if I'm angry while I'm writing it, I go, this is going to be really, really good. And people will text me and go, you were mad when you wrote this one. That's my favorite one. The idea that a kind of a one-time event, even if a 3-day event, does not generate economic boon to a city just because a superstar shows up for a couple days.
Right. And so at this time, I remember this article. So at this time, there was lots of news articles going around saying, look at all the economic activity Taylor Swift is generating. And your argument was, no, this is not true. And so why is that?
So you could generally put it into kind of 3 categories. The easiest one is this sort of like crowding out effect. So all the Taylor Swift fans coming to a city, there are people in that city going, no, thank you, I don't want to be here. And they leave the city and avoid it. So there's sort of this crowding out of people who normally spend stuff. There's also a substitution effect thing happening. So people in town who might be going to the concert, all they're doing is instead of going to a movie or the bowling alley, they're going to the concert instead. So it's money that it's a good opportunity cost example. It's money that would have been spent anyway. And so you're counting it. You're counting it when you really shouldn't be. And then the third one is kind of a leakages story. When you give your money to Ticketmaster, that money does not stay in New Orleans, for example. Ticketmaster is not headquartered there. When you stay at a Marriott, only part of that money stays at the Marriott. The rest goes back. So some of that money leaks out of the city. So those are kind of the 3 biggest and easiest ones to see.
So it's a bit of like the broken windows fallacy, right?
It's exactly like that.
With GDP, where it's like, all right, we break a window and then we have to spend money to fix it. That doesn't mean the economy goes up. It just means that money got spent on a window instead it would have been spent elsewhere. So what I was asking about the popularity is I often find that when someone asks me like my favorite thing that I've done, I gravitate towards the least popular because I'm like, hey, this thing should have got more it should have got more love than it did, and I almost like am embarrassed on the popular ones. Like, I don't know, like that one got a little bit too much love. But
my guess is I put a lot of effort into the ones that I really like, so that probably helps get their numbers up too.
Okay. And did Taylor Swift fans come for you because of this article?
No, they were actually pretty kind. It also doesn't help that I went to two of her shows, so like, I did fly to
when you went to her shows. Did you get recognized? Did they be like, "Oh, no. You're the guy"?
But I did go to the New Orleans show, and I'm sitting there going, "Well, I paid for a flight, and then I got a rental car, and then I booked a hotel." And I go, "This is not economic activity." I kept telling myself, "I go, somebody left. This money's not staying."
But you said yourself, what would you have done with that instead? Like what?
Exactly, I would have gone and done something else. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know you were. Yeah, go ahead, Ariel.
Oh, I was gonna say I tried to encourage my brother and sister-in-law who live in Indianapolis, like for her farewell concert. I'm like, you go stay, at his parents' house. Like, go just like rent your house out for 6 days. You'll make a ton of money. And their counter argument was, we don't want somebody trashing our like apartment, our house. But I was like, you have an opportunity to make thousands of dollars if you're just willing to leave for the weekend. So I actually tried to get them to do that, because if they rented it out, I thought they would have benefited from it.
I mean, these are Taylor Swift fans. They're not like Guar fans or Rammstein fans. They're not going to trash your apartment, I don't think. So.
Well, she runs
glitter everywhere. That's the problem.
Yeah.
She runs a cocktail business, so she has an insane number of like alcoholic bottles of everything that she's like mixing and running and like for parties and things. And she was like, no, they cannot get into my.
They cannot get into it. Yeah, they will. They'll do like my sister in high school and drink all the vodka and replace it with water. And then, years later, I'll go. This happened at my grandma's house where years later I was having a party there. I got all the vodka out and we're like mixing drinks and everyone's like, this doesn't take. And we started every single liquor bottle in that house was water or some fruit juice. And because my grandma doesn't drink, but she still, she had anyways. So that's what they would have done to your sister. Yeah. All right. Cool. So yeah, those are our three favorite posts. Go a nice sampling of the Monday Morning Economist. I think we got some pop culture, we got some present pop culture, we got some old pop culture, and we have obscure economic concept. Jadrian, I want to talk a little bit about teaching economics, since you are an economics professor at Virginia Tech. I don't know if we can say where you are. Your views don't represent Virginia Tech. Do we have to say that? I don't know. Probably not.
No, I don't work for the government. No, Virginia Tech wants you to say. They want you to say the name over and over and over again.
And you, and I'm sure you're like me. You probably enjoy teaching undergrads. A lot of professors don't like teaching undergrads, but I find it incredibly fun. Right.
They bring energy that I miss in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, and I find that they're still pretty engaged. Like a lot of people have, these kids are different post-COVID. I think the big thing I've noticed is they seem younger post-COVID, but they're still engaged. I'd say they still come to class. Yeah. They still want to learn. Yeah, I don't know.
They're curious.
It's a fun job. They're curious, but I think you probably have some issues with how econ is taught. Having taught it all these years, you have some changes you'd make. The big thing that I've noticed is how terrible economists are at naming things. They're really, they kind of choose the most confusing name possible. So I thought it'd be fun to sort of go through and just sort of pick our best, or not our best, our worst named econ concepts. Maybe we can just go back and forth and see what we have. Do you have any for us?
I have a list, right? I tell this to the students at the very beginning. I say, economists are incredibly annoying because we will take a regular word and make it mean something completely different in economics. Or we will take one word and it means 6 different things depending on the context. So I warned them up front how annoying economists are.
Do you think other fields are like this? I feel like it's like particularly acute in economics, where they seem to be deliberately trying to make something that's fun and interesting, opaque, vague, and off-putting.
Listen, I'll give you one of the first ones. It's like week 1 of the course. I go, here's my first example. What is, in economics, land? Matt, I'll give you that one, right? What counts the 3 factors of production, land, labor, and capital? What dumb things are included in land?
Oh, I don't teach this, so I don't know this. I don't know this. I don't know.
I can help.
I don't know this dumb part. I would assume it's just land. No,
that would be a good guess. Any resources from the earth. So if you're talking about water, that counts as land. If you're talking about animals, or right, if you're minerals, that counts as land. It's anything that comes from earth. So there's examples that are like, if you're fishing and you catch a fish, is that land, labor, or capital? If you use that fish for something else, it's part of land. And I'm like, that's so dumb. Like,
wow. Yeah, no, I never taught that. So I didn't. Wow. Okay. All right. It gets worse.
Land is an early contender in the semester for dumb names.
Okay. So we got land. I'm going to nominate elasticity. So I don't know if elasticity is on your list.
Does not.
But elasticity to me, or do you like the term elasticity, Jadrian? Do you think it's okay?
I think it's a very specific name that we use that I don't have problems with it. There's probably better names that we could call that.
I'm fine with elasticity because it's not the name that you were using for something else, right? So if you're talking about elasticity, nobody thinks that you're saying something else at the same time, right? Which is my problem with, say, public goods. Public goods. If you Google public goods, no one is talking about the economic definition of public goods, that they are non-rival, right? And, you just, ChatGPT, for the life of it, cannot give you good examples of real public goods because it doesn't understand the economic definition and it gets very confused. And so I think that if we want to use the same terms that everybody else is using, completely different, we just need a new name. And so elasticity is at least its own distinct.
Nobody's using that for something else. Is the
right?
Matt just doesn't that it's so specific.
Well, no. So, just for listeners, public goods in economics are defined differently than goods provided by the government. That would be like the common definition would be something that's provided by the government. It's totally different in economics. So yeah, all right, that's a good one. No, I don't like elasticity because, and maybe y'all could tell me, why not just call it price sensitivity? Like to me, that's what it is. It's like how sensitive consumers are to price changes. So why don't we just call it that? It seems so much easier and better. There seems to be like a perfectly good name that was just lying there, and they're like, no, elasticity, because it's like a rubber band, except not at all. Like in no way do I think the rubber band is a good analogy. I don't know, Jadrian. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I would say I don't have a problem with the word elastic. I think my problem comes in when we talk about more elastic or it being less inelastic, and we've got two directions going in the same direction. That's where it gets probably worse. That's
so we can either say more elastic, less inelastic. There are multiple ways to say the same thing.
To say the same direction. That's probably, then you can say more sensitive. I think your way would help. More responsive.
Yes.
It just seems like an unnecessarily complicated word. And I feel like it's not that difficult of a concept. It's just the word. Students get scared of the word, and then they're just like, all right, we're doing something complex, and I'm going to check out. So, and then also my other bugaboo with this is way nerdy for for a general audience. My other bugaboo is the that they suddenly decide to calculate percents different for just elasticity. They just completely say we're going to do percents an entirely different way than we normally do it. All right. We have any more terms, either Ariel or Jadrian?
I was going to say
I have another.
I'll piggyback on Ariel's. The people don't understand public goods because we call it something differently, but the same thing can be said of welfare, which is also welfare to an economist is very different than welfare to the general public. That one's always challenging.
Yes. So welfare, we mean like what do we mean, like total surplus? I guess
surplus, right? Total surplus, deadweight loss. Right.
Total. Oh, but by the way, surplus could be two things. So in economics, surplus could be like, like how better off you are, how much better off consumers or producers are, or it could be a surplus of goods. And we're going to use them on the same
names
exact
for
graph,
one word.
By the way.
Yep.
My category here I am a microeconomist. I prefer to teach micro. When I have to teach an overview class and teach macro, I'm like, okay, this is part of the course. I do it. But I prefer to spend time in micro. But teaching the discount rate and the federal funds rate and any other rates that
Oh,
the Federal Reserve is setting,
oh,
I
oh.
don't know what the Federal Reserve is doing, but the interest on reserve rate balances, like we could just rename all of these interest rates and make it so much more simpler. But the discount rate in particular is the one that I think is the most confusing. Like, what are we discounting? Like, it's not a discount at all. Like, just say, here's your emergency loan and here's what it's going to cost you, as a much clearer name for the discount rate.
Yeah. So yeah, all the rates when you're teaching monetary policy don't make any sense. Discount rate, what are we discounting? What's going on there? Okay, the Fed funds rate. We have the Fed funds rate and we have the interest on reserves. Guess which one the Federal Reserve controls? Oh, nope, not the Fed funds rate. The other one that doesn't have the Fed in the title. So yeah, Fed funds rate was on my list because even like economists, you'll see like people in the audience when someone's talking about the Fed funds rate, even like economists, you'll see in their head, they're like, oh, this is the one between banks. This is not the one the Fed controls. So yeah.
We like the interest on reserve rate balances is new. Like, did nobody in the last, since 2008 decide that they wanted to come up with a better name for that?
No, I know. Why is that to be four? They could shorten it. I don't know. They could come up with a better one. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be just called the Fed rate, actually, is what it should be called. It should be called the Fed rate, but we already have this thing called the Fed funds rate, which doesn't make any sense. One of these days, I'll do a deep dive on why they named it like that.
So,
all right, Jadrian, do you have more?
I'll give you one. Yeah, I'll give you one that a student, I didn't even think about for 10 years. And last year, a student brought it up and I go, oh yeah, that is really dumb. And it's because we'll cycle back to tariffs. When I teach tariffs and quotas, I talk about these are examples of trade protections. And then a student comes up to me and goes, but how is that protecting trade if you're not trading anymore? And I go, oh, you're right. Why do we call it that? Those are eliminating trade, not protecting trade. And yet for 10 years, I'm like, yeah, trade protections, tariffs, quotas, all these things. And it took me like I had this moment in class where I go, why do we call it that? I've got to come up with a new name for this.
That's got to be
I love getting to see you two do this. You two also just processed it in the moment that we call them trade protections and they don't protect trade.
Well, it's protection from trade. So
it's protection
like
from trade.
Yes,
absolutely. But we don't call it that, right? We call them trade protections.
Yeah. We lost the preposition.
We lost a word that really matters.
Yeah. We lost a word that made it mean the exact opposite. Yeah, typical. I'm going to go with the GDP equation as a whole gives people lots of confusion. So we're not even going to talk about the fact that there's imports in there at the net export figure, which confuses everyone. But investment, we have a category called investment, which is not what anyone in the real world talks about when they talk about investment. It's like business purchases is, I guess, what investment is in the GDP equation, which is not what anybody means when they say investment. So I'll nominate that one.
I have household protection or household production on my list. You are not producing any houses. You are producing things in the house. And those don't count towards GDP, even though that's a production equation. Household production does not count. So that's also in the list.
Any more? Maybe we can figure out what we can do at the end of this conversation is figure out what do we think the absolute worst is. Which of the ones that we've discussed is the absolute worst? Ariel, Jadrian, you have more nominees?
I was gonna say the one that I hate, that if I could change any term, I would actually change price discrimination out of my list. I do not like the word discrimination in price discrimination because students immediately go to the bad discrimination.
Right.
I would like to just call it price differentiation. We have product differentiation. Why can't we call it price differentiation? You charge different prices to different people. Product differentiation, you make different products for different people. That would be my nomination to the field.
And also, I would say it immediately has a negative connotation. And
Yes.
so students are like, this thing's bad, whatever. And it's not, it's not always bad. Sometimes it allows to increase surplus. And so,
I lean into it and I go, yeah, it's bad. I go, it's not fair. Y'all get a cheaper movie ticket and I have to pay more. You should have to pay more. And they go, no, we like cheap movies.
yeah. Do the students still see movies though? I don't know.
They do.
Are they still going to the movie? They do, really?
They do. They do still go to the movies. Yeah. There's not
Okay.
Well, Matt, here, this is a future Econ Nerd video for you. There's not a lot of third places for students to go. You do an economics of third spaces.
So, we should define third space or third place. It's just like,
I've heard
like
both.
not the home, not work. Yeah.
Some mystery third place.
And this is, I guess, related to the Robert Putnam, like bowling alone thesis, that America has less community than it had before, because we used to have these places we would go, like the club, like you'd have your gentleman's club, which I guess is not what we think of as gentleman's club today, but like a club you would go to hang out, or your country club,
a social club.
Church. Social club is a better term for it. Yeah, that you would have, like my grandpa was in like the Rotary or something, and he'd go hang out with the Rotary people or something like that. And so we've had but was there sort of a third space for students like back in the day, do you think?
Bowling alleys, arcades, coffee shops.
And when I was an undergrad, we used to just hang out. There would be like a common space on campus where we'd all hang out, like at the
student union, right?
Like at UCLA, we'd all hang out at this place called Kirchhoff, like outside Kirchhoff, and I would just spend I would often not go to class. I would walk to class and I would just stop by there, see some friends, and I just sit at a table almost all day, and there'd just be like rotating people coming by. Do the students not have that anymore, or?
It exists. I'm gonna make this real sad. It exists, but everybody has their headphones in, they're on their phone. It's a place to sit and wait for class rather than a place to hang out between classes.
Like have the happenstance conversations. Yeah, I mean, this is a bigger topic, but the phones. Back in the day, you would have these conversations because you had nothing else to do. Like you would kind of be forced to have conversations with people, and now you can not have conversations very easily. Which I guess I sort of go back and forth between this being a bad thing or this being a good thing, because oftentimes what I'm doing is I'm listening to a podcast that's like that's blowing my mind, and so I'm like, yeah, sorry, the person I'm listening to is more interesting than you, so. Like, I don't necessarily want to be having a conversation, but then you lose a lot of these, like, whatever kismet and serendipity that would happen in the past. Oh, sorry. Okay, we got sidetracked. Worst term of all the ones we brought up. What do we think economists have messed up the most? I will nominate welfare. I think welfare is probably the most egregious.
It's going between welfare and public goods. I think that public good, that's a good one.
Because they kind of mix up a policy debate. It makes makes like convincing whatever people of good policy difficult when you're using these terms that mean something completely different. Ariel, what do you think?
Well, I really liked Jadrian's price discrimination, because I think that one does. Everybody hates it just because of the name. Like it's almost like it has to be the worst thing that we ever learn, because of the way that it's named. And so I think it would be a lot easier to teach it if we just called it price differentiation. So I like that.
It's a small fix. Yeah. I don't know what the alternative to public goods would be, right? I don't know how to rename that to make it not the public goods people think, but it's actually an econ term.
Yeah. I would do like open access goods or something like that, or something like that. Like, I don't know. That was like that's the one that comes to mind. But the whole profession needs like a rebranding in terms. But I learned a lot. I learned there are even more terrible terms than I thought. All right. Final segment of the show. We talk about consumer surplus, deadweight loss in our personal life. Things giving us consumer surplus, things giving us deadweight loss.
Solo parenting this week. We've been traveling, and Trader Joe's.
Deadweight loss. Your husband.
Okay, no. The consumer surplus here is that these like pre-cooked Trader Joe's freezer meals are completely buying me so much extra time, right? Like it's an opportunity cost story. I paid more for the pre-cooked meal, but I can pull them out at any time. Everybody is fed, everybody is happy. And like I would have paid 3 times as much money for them, but Trader Joe's, has them at decently low prices. So I feel like I'm really getting my consumer surplus out of these, like chimichurri chicken skewers.
Yeah, think like an economist. Think about how much you would pay and how much benefit you're getting.
Mine's easy. I bought a house last week, and so I am.
Congrats!
Thank you.
Congrats!
I just slide that in there. So I bought a house last week, and I had an escalation clause in it, how much I was willing to pay, and I did not have to go to that escalation clause. I got a much lower. I basically got the original offer. Nobody else. I was already offering more than what they were asking for, but I had an escalation clause. I didn't have to pay. So I got all that consumer surplus.
And did you learn anything as an economist buying a house? Was there anything that surprised you, or you weren't necessarily?
This is my third time, and I hate it every single time. This feels like one of the. I don't know how they haven't fixed the home buying process. There is so much paperwork, and everything needs to be done immediately, and yet it still takes like a month and a half to get everything done. I do not understand the need for speed and yet the amount of time it takes to actually purchase a home. So no, I'm still just as confused as when I started.
One of my favorite
before.
Yeah, one of my favorite examples is I think it was like in 2021 or 2022. One of these like internet companies, I think it was Open Door, I think is the company that most prominently did this. They said, what we're going to do is we know how much these houses are worth. We have like a fancy algorithm. And so we're going to go and we're just going to cash offer houses, and we'll basically be a middleman. We'll be able to basically buy houses that people who are like desperate to sell. We'll be able to pick those up. We can give them like slightly below what we estimate it. Then, since we're a big company, we can wait and sell it at the higher price, and we'll make a nice living just basically being a market maker. Anybody want to guess what happened? Does anybody have a guess as to what happened to this company?
I have to imagine that they are holding on to all these houses and could not sell them for more than what they were offering for.
I'll give you a hint. Adverse selection.
Oh, they're only getting bad houses. That's the only people who would sell them below value.
So what happened is, like, basically what happened was, you have all the observables about a house, right? And you have the square footage, the whatever, when it was built, the rooms, but there's lots of unobservables. The owner can know that, it needs this new thing that you can't necessarily see or you can't find out, or the owner knows that, they took terrible care of the house, right? And so in economics, this is adverse selection. So what happened is everybody with a bad house, everyone with a low type house was like, Open Door comes in with their cash offer. And then they're like, yes, sweet. Oh, awesome. I thought people were going to discover all the bad things in the house. They sell to Open Door. Everybody with a good house is like, no, I'm not going to take your cash offer. I know this thing's awesome, and I'm going to wait. And so they lost, I don't know how much money, but they lost so much money because they got all the bad types. And so if listeners, I know this personally because my house I bought from Open Door, and they had bought it off this guy Manny, who did all sorts of crazy stuff with the house. It had stolen power among just one of the things. Its electrical was mostly electrical cords through the walls. That's another thing of the house. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, it had an open pipe. Yeah, go ahead.
I was like, you're writing the script for an Econ Nerds video right now, and I feel like I'm watching the video.
I should. My favorite part about my house is they first hard rains. Water started pouring through this one area, and I go into the attic to check things out. Hey, what's going on up here? Where does this water come from? So I see the water coming down, right? And then I look to the right, and there is a leaf blower duct taped to the side of the wall. And so Manny's solution was to turn on this leaf blower and have it blow the water out the side of the house instead of having it come down when it rained. So I have a leaf blower in my attic that's still there to this day.
So Matt, we need a tour of the house while you're making the video. You can go.
Yeah, I should. The power one's great. The stolen power is great because I called the power company. Just because I was like, I don't want to get arrested for this, And I was like, hey, my power bill's been $4 for the past 8 months. They're like, yep, that's right. I was like, I think there might be something wrong with my power. They're like, not our problem. And I was like, so it just should be $4 even though I used like a ton of electricity. They're like, that's what our documents say. And I'm like, it's not your problem. They're like, no, not our problem. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, I'm not sure whose problem it would be if it's not yours, but Okay, I told you that this seemed abnormally cheap to me. All right. So anyways, if you all want to come over to my house, you can use as much electricity as you like. All right. So you bought a house, consumer surplus. That's great.
Yes.
But it's a very, I think why it hasn't been streamlined, at least in my experience, it's very idiosyncratic. Like each house is its own, only thing. So it's hard to standardize the process.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. I did not expect to get onto a tangent of my house. Any other consumer surplus, deadweight loss? I'll talk just briefly. Consumer surplus. My consumer surplus is also my deadweight loss. My son got into Transformers. And so very interesting how good art or fun art can come from commerce. If you don't know the Transformers history, it was 2 different Japanese toys. And they said they went to Marvel Comics and said, can you make this popular in the States? And so Marvel came up with a comic book, and then there was a TV show that basically, provided the lore and the story. And it was one of the favorite things from my youth. And now my son is enjoying it as well. Deadweight loss, though, this thing has been terribly mishandled. We've been watching the movies, and oh my God, the movies are awful. So not handled well in recent times, except for Transformers 1, which is pretty good. Any other ones? Any other ones?
Well, mine is a concern about future loss of surplus. So news this week is that Delta is pretty open about their use of AI to help them basically achieve first-degree price discrimination. They want you to pay. They're gonna like change their algorithm so that you're paying your max you're willing to pay. And I feel like I'm relatively close to the max when I'm paying for a family to fly. And so I am not looking forward to having more price discrimination in airline prices.
Hey, you gotta fly Frontier or Spirit. You gotta go to the budget flights, Ariel. Come on, try it out.
Frontier is changing that tactic. That hasn't been working for them because nobody wants to do that. My one experience flying Spirit, though, I did actually get a lot of surplus because I paid $36 a ticket and stuffed 3 backpacks, full of things for 3 people to travel, and so that was a great deal. But I don't do it on a regular basis.
My wife,
a random Tuesday at a weird time, and
Yeah, my wife just booked it. The only airline available for her to go. She's going to Vegas in August to see the Backstreet Boys. I'm not invited. First, I'm not sure how that works, but she's going just with her friends to see the Backstreet Boys. And so yeah, she was like, the only flight available is Frontier. Do you think I'll be fine? I was like, better have the car ready. Have the car ready in case it doesn't come through. You can come home and just drive there. All right, Jadrian, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for Monday Morning Economist, which gives me incredible consumer surplus. Free, I guess. Is there a paid option?
There's a paid option. You get nothing out of it. So it is purely it's a pay what you want model instead. I'm perfectly fine with zero. Zero's fine.
Do you have anything else? Do you have anything else you'd like to promote besides Monday Morning Economist?
Yeah, you already started with Jet Set. Jet Set.
We weren't recording. We weren't recording when we were talking about Jet Set.
Well, I'll plug the Journal of Economics Teaching then. That's where there's a lot of great ideas. So if there are teachers listening, the Journal of Economics Teaching is an open access teaching resource. Lots of great ideas, and they have a summer conference that is too late for you to attend this summer, but you can plan to go next summer. I don't know where it's going to be, but great conference, great resource, and if you just like economics, it's a fun to read different ideas.
All right. Well, until next week, we'll see everybody. Thanks again.